Hey everyone, I just want to share my thoughts on the state of Destiny 2 as of June 2021. Destiny's in a very interesting state right now, leaning towards the negative. PvE is great with the addition of the fan favorite raid, the Vault of Glass, but extremely bland when it comes to other aspects of the game, especially the new season of the Splicer. Gambit and the Strike playlist feel like forgotten game modes in Destiny 2, which probably isn't going to change anytime soon, with Bungie having no plans for them in the near future. The Crucible and the Trials of Osiris are both in the worst states they've ever been in since the beginning of Destiny, with the crazy amount of shotguns and hand cannons running around, but have seen some light with the most recent stasis nerfs. Well, kinda. Certain parts of Destiny's PvE scene are great, whereas other parts are lackluster. With the addition of Vault of Glass, Destiny feels fun again. I truly haven't enjoyed a PvE experience in a long time prior to its release. I remember thinking to myself, wow, I'm genuinely having fun playing Destiny right now. The raid is such a breath of fresh air that the game so desperately needed. Although it's older content, Bungie did an excellent job at changing the raid so it's not the same experience as Destiny 1, but didn't stray too far away from the original. Instead of having us shoot as the entire raid, they had us memorizing the order of the oracles. We actually had to do things during the gatekeeper encounter, something I look forward to every time we start up the raid. I would like to see other weapons return as well. Although they don't really fit the weapons that we have in Destiny 2, maybe Bungie can turn Atheon's epilogue into an SMG or something. With the arrival of challenge mode and Master Vault of Glass releasing soon, the raid's future looks really bright. All in all, Vault of Glass gets 2 thumbs up from me. Season of Splicer, on the other hand, is kinda bland. Bungie is killing it with the story and lore side of things. The cutscene of Mithrax explaining how the Fallen see Saint 14 gave me goosebumps. But the gameplay loop is terrible. The overrides were great at first, but they got really old really fast. The Gambit part of the activity feels like a drag, and it seems like we spend little to no time in the part of the activity that players actually enjoy. If Bungie had us spend more time in the Vex network instead of the overworld, it would make the activity so much better. Expunge is actually amazing, but it leaves a lot more to be desired. Venturing into the Vex network is the dopest thing Bungie has added into Destiny in a long time, but the fact that it has no replayability, editor's note, Bungie added some replayability when they made the mission pinnacle by making you play it 3 times a week to get the pinnacle loot. Really sucks, unless you're someone who wants to speedrun it, I guess. Hopefully, when the mission becomes pinnacle, Bungie adds more replayability to it. The seasonal challenges that Bungie has added for the season of the Splicer had us going to different planets and using certain weapons. For the most part, they're pretty boring. It seems like outside of the campaign missions, these challenges are the only reason why players would visit these planets. I can't remember the last time I had to go to the moon or to the Tangled Shore. Even then, it's only for the bounties and that's it. It would be pretty dope if Bungie could add a weekly adventure to the planets, so there's actually a reason to go explore the planets instead of the mindless killing bounties we have to do. Then there's the Strike playlist. With the exception of Grandmaster Nightfalls, the Strike playlist doesn't have much. There are like 15 strikes in the game, and there's only one of them that I genuinely like doing, Lake of Shadows. I think Bungie should get away from the phased boss fights for strikes. Nothing messes up the flow of an encounter more than the immune status that the boss gets just before you hit him with your super. I'd rather have the boss be tankier, so I make more decisions while I'm in the fight. Do I focus on dealing damage to the boss and risk dying to the ads? Or do I focus on the ads and be safe, but it'll take longer to finish the strike? I also think that the Strike playlist should get an update to the vendor, kinda like how the Crucible got theirs updated. This update will make the Strike playlist more engaging, and you get to see more progression. One more thing I want to add. The lack of Strike specific loot in the lower level Strike playlist is a real letdown. One of the best parts of Destiny 1 was farming for the Godroll Grasp of Malok, or trying to recreate Freightbringer with Imago Loop. To end the PvE side of things, there's something I quickly want to touch up on. I think that Bungie should really consider bringing up the old raids to light. I struggle to find any reason as to why they can't. This is endgame content that the majority of the player base don't want to play because there's nothing for them to gain other than some weapons and armor they can infuse. Even if they wanted to play it, if they didn't have a dedicated fire team to run it, it would be extremely hard to find 5 other players that would want to do it. Maybe they could look at removing some other pinnacle sites to bring these raids up to light. Gambit is actually the forgotten game mode in Destiny 2. It feels like the only thing Bungie does is remove content from the game mode. Gambit went from having 6 maps to only 4. The last time Gambit got a new map was the release of Forsaken. The new weapons are kinda cool, I guess, if you want to grind for another 120 hand cannon. There's also an SMG that I struggle to find a reason to use when we have the Ikilos and the 7 Seraph SMG, unless you desperately need a solar weapon. It's gotten to the point where Gambit feels like a chore, so much so that my friends and I started using Gambit as a humorous way to alleviate some tension we have when we play. It's more than just a joke between some friends. It actually shows that Gambit is a joke. The sheer disrespect that Bungie has shown the game mode is absurd. There isn't much to say that hasn't already been said in the past year. The game mode is in a terrible state, and Bungie should just vault it and take a hard look at it if they want to re-release it. The Crucible. I don't know where to start when it comes to PvP. Shotguns, hunters, 120 RPM hand cannons, and so much more. First of all, I think that Bungie needs to take a look at Fell Winners again. The removal of the quick drop perk realistically does nothing, because the people that use Fell Winners use it to engage into fights, rendering the perk useless to begin with. 120 RPM hand cannons and shotguns have been running rampant in the Crucible, especially Trials of Osiris. According to Destiny Trials report, since the beginning of the season of Splicers, Fell Winners has almost 5 million kills, and an average of 8% of kills in Trials over the weekend. Hand cannons have a whopping 14 million kills since the beginning of the seasons. Mind you, I wrote this script when the season was relatively new, only 4 weekends. There are 6 120 RPM hand cannons in Destiny 2 that aren't sunset. Those 6 make majority of the 14 million kills, which is absolutely insane. Just a quick editor's note, the most recent TWAB on June 24th just confirmed that the Loud Lullaby is going to be coming back into the loot pool, which means there's going to be 7 120 RPM hand cannons and another one that can roll Rampage. The ideal 120 hand cannon you want is one that can roll with Rampage, which 3 of them can. Acquiring Rampage allows you to consistently be able to 2-tap players, which can lead to some insane TTKs. Hand cannons and Fell Winners have been top meta weapons since the release of Beyond Light, which began on November 10th, 2020. That means that it's been at least 8 months and we still haven't seen any significant nerfs to either weapon types. I'm gonna go off the script and just talk for a bit. I think that Bungie should look at the mobility stat for players and look at the exotics that increase sliding distance. These exotics have no place in the Crucible, with people who's running around like 100 mobility hunters dodging everywhere, sliding, warlocks with transversive steps sliding across the map, titans with dune marches with the stasis melee ability that makes you slide like even further. I think it just has no place in Destiny. I think we should definitely look at that, or maybe even remove it. Trials of Osiris also has its fair share of issues. With every new season or DLC, Trials gets a huge spike in its player base, but that number quickly dwindles. It's not like the player base lowers throughout the season, the player base drops the weekend after. The first weekend of Trials, I had 2 matches where players would jump off the map just to get the loot instead of playing out the matches. Players would much rather jump off the map instead of trying to get 3 wins, which really speaks volumes for the state of Trials. I think that the loot system could use some work so players wouldn't have to resort to this. Another issue that Trials has is the lack of joining in progress. I know that PC had that win trading scandal a few months ago, but I feel like Bungie should definitely look into getting this feature back for players. The last issue I want to bring up is the usage of heavy weapons in Trials of Osiris. Considering that Trials is competitive, I think that's the last place we want heavy. With all the nonsense heavy weapons we have in the game, like Warcliffe Coil, it doesn't make sense in a competitive shooter to have something like that. There was a reason why players used to wave off heavy in Destiny 1. It was just no place for heavy there. Considering that shotguns and hand cannons went unchanged for months, I find it hard to believe that Bungie decided to nerf snipers and buff fusion rifles. Around that time Bungie nerfed snipers, there was only one sniper being used, Adored. I find it extremely funny that hand cannons and shotguns were dominant while snipers were getting nerfed. The flinch nerf really made the hand cannon meta so much stronger, because you can't really combat it. As soon as a hand cannon sees you, you're aiming at the moon. In the same patch, fusion rifles got their range buffed. I don't know if Bungie intended for this to happen, but when they buffed fusion rifles, that means they buffed Bastion and Telesto. And I feel like whenever those guns are really good, it's really toxic. I think Bungie should start balancing exotics and legendaries differently so something like this wouldn't happen again. Bungie finally listened to the community and nerfed stasis, but every rose has a thorn. The nerfs to stasis only propelled the issues with the light subclasses into the limelight. These problems existed well before the release of Beyond Light, but were only pushed aside due to the popularity of stasis. There are many balancing issues with the light subclass, like Geomag Warlocks, Top Tree Dawnblade Warlocks, and most of the roaming supers that are in the game. Bungie really needs to nerf the duration of roaming supers. They last far too long. They have extreme amounts of powers in Trials of Osiris with the amount of zoning and survivability that they have. For example, the amount of mobility that Top Tree Dawnblade has can really swing a match in your favor. Destiny 2 is my favorite video game, even though I have many issues with it. I still get on the game to play it every week, from doing the Vault of Glass to participating in trials every weekend. With the game's many ups and extreme downs, I'm still gonna stick by it. Hopefully Bungie takes a look at the many things wrong with the game and make an effort to fix them. Like Bungie's always said, Destiny's best days are ahead of them. Only time will tell if that's true. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.